Hey, this is Matt once again. What about videos is a paid request, this time from Mr. Leeman. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, topics, reactions, commentaries, reviews, re-reviews, what have you, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both things are down below in the info box. Now, this may not be a popular opinion, but, well, that hasn't stopped me before. I didn't grow up much with Planet of the Apes movies. Now, I don't mind the first one with Charlton Heston. I don't mind the film. It's not a film I rewatch a lot, but I've seen it. I'm like, Charlton Heston, the ape makeup for the time, the music by Jerry Goldsmith, a lot of good stuff. Very memorable ending with the Statue of Liberty. You blew it all to hell. And I've seen the other Planet of the Apes films. There's a good documentary on it, hosted by Roddy McDowell. I probably say I actually enjoy the documentary more than the movies, but the third one, I remember not minding Escape from the Planet of the Apes, where Zira and Cornelius played by Roddy McDowell. Zira, was it Tim Hunter, I believe is her name? I'm not good with names, I apologize. They escape with a third individual and they go to our modern time in the past, and there's a little social commentary on racism, things of that nature. And then you have the fourth one, Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Oh no, that's the fifth one. The fourth one was, God, why can't I not? Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. Remember that being a pretty decent one with Roddy McDowell. He plays his son growing up. And I remember that probably being my favorite sequel of all of them. And Battle for the Planet of the Apes, I remember not minding either. I remember not minding that one. I know some people don't like that one, but yeah, Battle for the Planet of the Apes, I remember not minding. I would say probably Conquest, the first one, and then either Escape or Battle and vice versa. This is my least favorite. I mean, it's better than Did Tim Burton do? Yeah, the Planet of the Apes remake, Marky Mark and his Funky Bunch. I forgot Tim Burton did that. Oh my god. I mean, it's better than that one, because that one is a bunch of doll piss wrapped in a bag, ready to set on fire, during a snowstorm. Why you would do that? Same reason as why would you make and remake Planet of the Apes and do such a crappy job? Good makeup, but crappy job. And why the hell would you cast Mark Wahlberg? And then the stupefying ending, the Lincoln ape head. But Beneath the Planet of the Apes, I'm not a fan of either. And the new ones, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, I hated. Don't care to see the other ones. I just don't. See, as you can tell, I'm not a hardcore fan of the franchise. But like I said, I like the first one. I don't mind the third one. Conquest of the Planet of the Apes is probably my favorite. Now, why do I not like this one? Number one, it's a bit hard to carry through the ending of the first movie with the Statue of Liberty. That's a big, as Roddy McDowell said in the documentary, it's a big cultural, iconic moment. How the hell do you follow that? And this wasn't really a great way to do it. Charlton Heston, he didn't want to come back, but he's like, hey, we need to make the movie with you. So he's in it for the very beginning of the film. He disappears till the last 15 minutes of the film. So barely any Charlton Heston for his choice. Instead, you get this other guy that seems like a copy of Charlton Heston. It's an actor named James Franciscus. I've seen him in a couple other stuff. He was in The Swarm with Michael Caine, which is a film I actually liked. He's been in a few other stuff, but you could tell they got him because trying to be a wannabe Charlton Heston. And James Franciscus isn't a bad actor. It's just with the way they made him look and the way that he talked, it's like we can't have Charlton Heston, so let's get a guy that's almost, if you take your glasses off, you think it's Charlton Heston. And it's just, Sally is always going to get compared to it. They look kind of similar, and they almost want to talk similar, and it just, the guy doesn't compare to Charlton Heston. And I think James Franciscus was just between a rock and a hard place with comparison. And I don't know why the hell there's a rescue ship, because there's no word that the first ship, I don't think, was even in that much trouble. I don't think, at least quick enough to have a rescue ship sent that quick, where it's like been a day or so since Charlton Heston disappeared. But whatever, it's a sequel. So he lands, he's the lone survivor, and it kind of plays off, as one person would say, a pale imitation of the original, especially the first chunk of the film. I mean, you get an opening, which is a recap of what happened in the first movie, especially the first movie's ending. Then Charlton Heston and Nova, the mute girl, are roaming around. And then, because James Franciscus has landed, his commander dies. He wanders around, finds Nova, and then you kind of find out that Charlton Heston was with Nova. They were around the wasteland, and these weird lightning and chasm opened up on the ground. Charlton Heston tried to hit something, he disappeared. And then he disappears until the last 15 minutes of the movie. And then you just kind of have just a lame version of the first film. Here's a guy trying to look and sound like Charlton Heston, dealing with Nova. They're wandering around, they find an ape city. The guy's horrified. Man, they're apes and they talk. And then another issue with the film is the much lower budget. For I understand, it was half of the budget of the first film. And you tell it because it doesn't really have, I guess until the third act and the subterranean tunnels, it doesn't really have much of a scope or much of a vision. And the makeup seems like a downgrade from the first, especially the crowd scenes, because there are crowd scenes where people just put a mask on, and you can tell in crowd scenes there are some that look just absolute dreck dog shit. And this General Ursus, this gorilla, the only good human is a dead human. So James Franciscus doesn't know what to do. Him and Nova finally get to Zira from the first film, comes back, and Cornelius. But you have no Roddy McDowall, because I believe he was directing a film somewhere, so he couldn't come back, so they got another person. But it's even more confusing because they have Roddy McDowall narrating at the beginning of the film. Like, of his character talking. Not narrating, but talking. So they have him talking, because it's footage from the first movie. But then they bring his character back, and it's a different actor and a different voice. And I'm like, well, either maybe re-record and this new actor's voice that material, or just don't have Roddy McDowall's character talk, have Zira and other people talk. Dr. Zayas talk. It says that actor came back and Tim Hunter came back, but what do I know? So it's a bit weird to hear not Roddy McDowall come out of this character's mouth, just didn't fit. And even their makeup, I don't know if something about it is just, it felt even, maybe just felt more special in the first one, or they didn't seem as pristine as the first movie, even their makeup. Maybe that's just me. And pretty much they're told you have to escape and hope you find Taylor, Charlton Heston's character. The two get caught. Zira unlocks the gate so that when the carriage is going, James Franciscus can get out, get on top, throw the driller off, escape, and they escape to what he finds out is the tunnel station of the New York City subway. And then you get these, I like matte paintings. They are what they are. I mean, it's 1970. And then they find out that there's this group of people, humans, that are telepathic, and they worship this ancient nuclear bomb. And it's like, okay, well, I mean, at least now we're getting a little bit more interesting with the story. And they'll take off their face, and they've been mutated. And like I say, they worship this bomb, and you have the apes in their religion, and these folks in their religion, into this glorified holy war. There's even some other political stuff where there's literally war protesters of the chimpanzees. Stop the war, we need to make peace, and the gorillas pretty much just throw them out. Not subtle, but it's there. Just the film I thought was just very boring. It is very... Like I said, the first good hour of the movie is just... We've seen this before. We've seen it done before. In the first movie. You just rewatch the first movie, and you get more Charlton Heston's intensity, you get a bit better makeup, it feels a little bit bigger scope, you get more defined story, Jerry Goldsmith. Not that the story in this wasn't bad, but it's just... for the first hour you're doing, this just seems like I've seen this before, and what's really making it noteworthy to have a sequel. It's not until you get into these telepathic humans, and then by the time you get to that, it's just kind of a few minutes of... We don't hear what they're saying, but James Franciscus repeats what they say, and does this a few times. Meets Charlton Heston, which I guess they know each other. And then the telepathic humans decides for them to fight each other. Which I think is weird. Like, why did you put them in the cell, but then you want them to fight each other? What's the purpose of that? Like, what is your purpose of that? I guess just for the shits and giggles. Spoiler alert, they fuck up a guard. Nova's there. The ape regime has gone there. Apparently these telepathic humans... The telepathy can't do much to the gorillas. Can't control them. Can't... I guess not. I know they try to explain it, but I still don't understand why they can't control and mess with the gorillas. Does it really become a battle? I mean, that would have been maybe interesting. Using their telepathy to make one gorilla shoot another, but then one gets the cheap shot and hits one from the side, and... Like, they could control 101, but maybe they can't control 3 or 4, and they have the numbers, but one has the power, but the other have bigger numbers. And, like, an actual battle would have been fine, but there is no battle. The telepathic humans get wiped out pretty damn quickly, to the point that I almost felt sorry for them. I said almost. And then this becomes, like... the most depressing, nihilistic fucking ending this side of David Fincher. I mean, David Fincher's Planet of the Apes. Just... Nova gets killed. Then you find out it's a doomsday almost a disease. Device. Then James Franciscus gets killed. Literally just shot to shit. And then Charlton Weston. Who the fuck is Charlton Weston? Charlton Heston gets wounded. And Dr. Zay's being a dickhead. You bastard. Hits the button, blows up the earth. And even a piece of narration is, there's a star, and next to the star was a planet, and now it's dead. And they just silence in the credits. And I sat there going, I wonder how people back in the day in the theaters thought of this. I mean, I'm not saying the first film, it's not a kid's film. It's not like a joy, but it's a bit more of an adventure. I wonder if they saw this and just went, fuck, I didn't know I was going to a funeral. I wonder if there's anybody that saw this and had the same reaction that I did when I saw, like, Alien 3. I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, it's a ballsy ending, and I guarantee there are people who love it because of the ballsy ending where everybody dies. And then they thought there'd be no more sequels, but nope, there were 3 more. But I don't know, it just... It's just one of those weird things that if you're a fan of the original and then you go into this and it's like, oh, I like Charlton Heston, but he dies. I like Nova, but she dies. And then at the time, not knowing there'd be 3 more films, you go, oh, wow, well, everybody died, even Zero, even Cornelius, what the fuck? No, they're in the next one and then they die. So even that's depressing. Like, everybody's got to die in these movies. Everybody's got to die in this franchise. Caesar, I don't think, dies, though. I think Caesar is one of the few that doesn't die. I think he's still around at the end of Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Again, that's like the only one who doesn't die. Go figure. Like, the problem with Battle for the Planet of the Apes is that it didn't have the budget to have this full-blown epic battle that would have been nice to see. But at least it ended with a bit of hope between apes and humans. So it wouldn't be the exact same as the history of Planet of the Apes. But yeah, at least there was that, which I liked. But yeah, I mean, it's a depressing, nihilistic film. I guess if you're... I'm not usually... Unless it's John Carpenter who knows how to do that kind of stuff, like The Thing, you just say, and all that stuff. I'm not usually big on I like Seven. There's some films I like. It just depends. It's not my usual cup of tea, I'll put it that way. And like I said, with the chunk of the film being kind of just a copy of the first film, the telepathic humans seem like there should have been a lot more done with them. Like, it kind of just touched the surface. And either have much more of a fun battle between them and the apes, or a bit more of the apes and telepaths trying to go back and forth in their ideals and their dialogue and what each one believes in. It's like, well, you both kind of believe in the same thing, but you just can't get past your bullshit to realize you're in the same ballpark. And the ending is just... Like, I could just imagine maybe people in the theater back in 1970 just sitting there going, what the fuck? I mean, James Franciscus just got into the movie and then he's dead. I mean, I'm sure he's like, well, fuck, I don't even get to be in a sequel. I did no franchise. I came in here just because Charlton Heston didn't want to be in it, and then as soon as Charlton Heston... Like, it's not even... He's the star of the film, and he doesn't even get the last moment. Like, think about it. He's the star of the film, and he doesn't get the last moment. He gets shot, killed. Bye-bye. So I think some people would appreciate... Like I said, it's not cliche, or, it's not typical. But, I mean, I guess it's just not my cup of tea. Like I said, of the 5 films, the first 5, this is my least favorite. I really don't care for this film at all. But that's just me.